Love stories.
Hey, welcome back to Love Stories. This is Cheri Smith, Blue Heart Music, and this is a place where you just might learn a little bit about love while being entertained. Now, today we have a very special guest that I am super excited to introduce to you, my friend and renowned food blogger, Reed Dunn. Woo! Welcome, Reed. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Oh, you bet. Thanks so much for coming on. And today, Reed is going to tell us a little bit about his food blog and share a bad date story that sounds very interesting. So, Reed, why don't you tell us a little bit about your blog? It's Pesto and Potatoes.
Yeah. I started Pesto and Potatoes after I kind of was getting on a healthy kick and was making sort of more paleo, Whole30 friendly foods and really just watching what I was eating. And I, as an accountability factor, just was photographing my food and putting it on an Instagram account just so I could keep myself accountable.
Oh, wow.
And my coworkers were like, you need to do more with this. You need to turn this into a regular blog. And I'd been a journalist. That was what I studied in college. So writing
Cool.
is pretty natural for me. And so I started Pesto and Potatoes a few years ago, and it's kind of taken off, specifically on Instagram, but I'm on pestoandpotatoes.com and all the social media platforms, just kind of focusing on local seasonal ingredients and trying to get people back into the kitchen and cooking for themselves.
That's awesome. I have to admit, I have been able to sample a little bit of Reed's food and it is yummy. So definitely recommend checking out some recipes. I also, there was one recipe in particular that I saw that just said yum. That's lemon garlic tilapia.
Yeah,
I'm going to try that. I haven't tried it yet, but that sounds good.
yeah, that's an easy one. So it's a good one to try.
Awesome. Well, good, because I'm not a super great chef. I'm still like maybe more intro to medium.
That's perfect.
Awesome. Well, so how did you get into cooking?
I grew up in sort of the middle of nowhere, Kansas, a really small farming community. And I would come home after school, and my mom always kept a really well stocked pantry.
Mm.
So I would pull her Better Homes and Gardens cookbook off the shelf and just kind of get to work making desserts. So I baked a lot as a child. My mom decorated cakes for people's birthdays and weddings and things like that. So I would play around with the extra frosting and draw on wax paper and things like that. So it was sort of always undertow, and my mom was a really great home cook. And so her legacy, I think, for me has been to try to carry that on a little bit since she passed. So
Oh my.
it's always been a thing for me. And she's been gone 12 years, but
Wow.
every day I'm in the kitchen, there's a little piece of her there
Oh,
with me, I think.
that's really sweet, Reed. I just warms my heart to hear that. Um, I also noticed on your bio that you had won an award or that you were award winning.
Yeah. So I've entered several little contests. That sort of stems from my childhood too. I was in 4-H. Really, that small town thing was really there, and I always kind of went to the state fair with food projects, and then when I started Pesto and Potatoes, I entered an amateur chef's competition, and I didn't really think anything of it. Again, a friend had said, you should enter this, you'd be great for this. And um, I had to enter 3 recipes, and my recipes were all selected, and they named me the award of head chef, and I won a nice little prize and some really high-end kitchen equipment. So
Wow.
it wasn't a bad thing.
Wow, that's really cool. That's awesome. Well, I have yet to win any cooking awards. Although to be fair, I haven't entered any contests for cooking,
That's right.
but
You've got
we'll
to enter
see.
to win.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. Yeah. So they can find you on pestoandpotatoes.com, and that's your website. And then your Instagram is at pesto and potatoes.
Correct. Yeah.
And I will post those links in the description.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to tell me about that before we move on into my favorite
No, I
little
think,
love story?
I think if people go to the website and go to the Instagram, they'll find all of my other channels and they can follow along. And I'm really interactive with my followers and try to help people, like I said, get back in the kitchen.
Okay,
And
that
so
sounds great.
it's a great place to start.
Cool. All right. Well, that's very inspiring. All right, now here's something maybe less inspiring for dates. So I know that you are in a very healthy, happy relationship now, but in your past, you had a very bad date with somebody else, and I would love to hear all about that.
Yes, yes. So, in throughout my early career, as I mentioned, I was a journalist, and so I wasn't ever in one place for all that long. So I'd be in a job for 2 to 3 years. So from the time I left college, I went to Kansas State, and then I moved to Iowa for my first job, and then I moved to Michigan a couple years later. And a few years later, I moved to South Louisiana before landing in Seattle, where I've been for the past 12 years or so. And so every time that I would try to find someone to date, I would kind of be up against starting all over, just like I was starting my career every single time that I moved to one of those cities, trying to get my dating life going was the same. But when I went to South Louisiana, of all the places, I really started meeting a lot of people who I was clicking with, and I was living in Lafayette, a couple of hours from New Orleans, but friends and I would go for weekend birthday celebrations or a holiday weekend or something to New Orleans, and we would stay for the weekend and kind of soak up all of the debauchery and good times that New Orleans had to offer, and of course all the delicious Cajun food and all of that.
Yeah.
So on one of those trips, we were going home from the bars on Bourbon Street one night,
Mm-hmm.
and I was single at the time and very much open to dating. And I met this guy on the street corner, literally,
Okay.
and we started talking, and I I found out that he lived in Baton Rouge. I lived in Lafayette, and he told me that he made weekly trips to Lafayette for his job. So we sort of made an arrangement that the next week, when he was in Lafayette for work, we would meet up for dinner date and see where things went from there.
Okay. Interesting so far.
Yeah.
And then?
And then that's when things got a little crazy. So I was in Lafayette working, and I was really excited to hang out with this guy. I knew he was in town because he did something with interiors, or he was doing work in antiques. And I didn't really have the full story because we kind of met quickly, um, and did a number exchange, and decided to go on this date. So he called and said, "I'm running a little early. Um, can we meet early?" And I said, "I'm actually running a little late because I'm stuck at work and I've got to get home and change, and then I'll be ready." And so he was kind of pushing, like, "Why don't I just come over to your apartment and pick you up?" And the original plan was we were going to meet at this restaurant.
Mm.
So I started getting weird vibes then, but I thought, well, he's just bored and ready to meet. So I finally agreed that he could come pick me up. And so he came over, but I lived in a big apartment complex and I wouldn't tell him which apartment specifically I lived in.
Yeah.
I just sort of directed him to the parking area near the building I lived in.
Safety first.
Yeah, because I don't know why, I just had this weird feeling that this was not going to be a great idea. So I'm ironing my shirt, getting all ready. I'm sweating. I'm so nervous. I don't even know why. I'm like, there's really nothing to lose, right? It's just a first date. Um, so I go down, I get in his truck. We go to dinner. Everything seems normal. He's a super nice guy. And we're having dinner, and I'm asking him about the antique job and, what are you doing? And, what brings you to Lafayette? And are you a designer? Are you a buyer? Kind of just trying to have normal conversation, right? Like, sort of like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you do for a job? Normal first date.
Yeah.
You don't really know anything about each other. Banter.
Yeah, totally.
And he was very nice, but he was being a little weird, I could tell.
Like evasive?
He was hiding something, I could tell. And so I knew that the other shoe was about to drop. And so I excused myself to go to the bathroom to text a friend because I had no real escape plan.
Oh, yeah.
Because he knew where I lived. He came and picked me up. He obviously had my number. He knew my name. Like, it wasn't like super creepy at that point.
Yeah.
So I went to the bathroom, texted my friend, and I was like, I'm on this really weird date and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but if I call, you need to answer.
Wow.
So I go back out, and he just was like, I could tell he wanted to tell me. And so I said, what? I'm like, what? It feels like you're hiding something. Wow. And he's like, I'm not hiding anything. And I said, well, it seems something about your career seems weird. Huh. And he said, I have only been doing antiquing for a couple of years. And I go, oh, what'd you do before that? Super innocently.
Yeah.
And he said, I was in the funeral business, but I lost that job and had to switch careers. And I was like, all of a sudden in my head, I'm like thinking, what in the world could, like, how do you like lose that job? Like,
yeah, it's not,
how do you like
high demand job?
Like, who wants to do? I mean, I'm very fascinated by those kind of odd jobs. So I was like, yeah. Normally I would have been like, oh, that's so amazing. But he just came out and said, I got fired and went to prison for embezzling money from the funeral home over the course of like a decade or so.
Oh, wow.
And when I got out of prison, that's when I started dealing antiques. Oh. And I didn't know how to respond. I mean, how do you respond to that, right? Like,
yeah. You're like, so, on more dates. Great.
Yeah, I know. So he went to the bathroom, and I called my friend and I was like, I don't know what to do, but here's the situation. And then I just was like, well, I guess we're just going to have to like wrap this up, and I'll just have to like say this isn't a fit for me.
Yeah.
So he comes out of the bathroom and he proceeds to say, like, do you want to go somewhere for a drink? Do you want to, whatever? And I'm like, no, I all of a sudden I had an early morning meeting. This was, many years ago. I was not very good with my storytelling when it came to lying like that. I'm not a good liar to begin with. And so the whole awkward drive home, which by the way was maybe 8 blocks, the restaurant was like really not that far.
Uh,
It was sort of across town, but it wasn't like we were in the car for an hour.
yeah.
I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And he kept pressing like, do you want to see me again? Do you think you can get past this? And I was like, oh, I'm past it. Like, I didn't go to jail for embezzling
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I'm great. And I totally got home, let him down, told him I was like, I don't think I want to see you again. It's not a fit for me. He was
Yeah.
a bit older than me too. So I kind of was like, I just don't think we're at the same place.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got out of his truck, I walked to a different building and went to the apartment gym where a couple of people were working out. And I mean, in the South, people get dressed up for dates and stuff. So I was
Yeah.
kind of dressed up, and I just walk into the gym, and the people working out are looking at me like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to hang out here until I think he's gone before I go to my apartment. Because I didn't know. I thought he was going to follow me in.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I got
you
home,
never
called
know.
my friend, and I was like, you've got to come pick me up. I'm at home, but I need to go have a couple of drinks. Like, I need some relaxation friend time because
Yeah.
this is too crazy for me.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy. So did the guy ever try to call you again?
He did. He tried to call, and he tried to drop something off at my apartment.
Oh,
Again, like he was like, I got something for you, and I was just like, I, I just cut it off. I didn't I didn't engage, and he got the hint after that that one more rejection, I
so he
guess.
didn't like turn into creepy stalker guy. Sounds like.
No, I mean, I guess he had a little bit of a rap sheet, so he didn't want to be too aggressive. And he was
Yeah.
totally a nice guy. I just felt like he
Yeah.
was, I guess I don't know how you, in that situation, like how you say, like, I embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars in a former life. I'm super good match for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's a tough one. But yeah, I also like would not feel comfortable in that situation.
right. I honestly, like, I felt like all of my female friends who I all of a sudden had a newfound understanding
Yeah.
of the intimidation for these women who I was friends with going out on these dates
Totally.
with guys, like going on a blind date or going on a first date with someone,
Yeah.
because I felt threatened, and maybe not rightfully so, but I felt really, um, I just felt really not at ease
Yeah.
because something wasn't right from the beginning. And then when I found out what it was, I couldn't I couldn't personally recover.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Wild.
That is pretty wild. That is quite the story read. So tell me, do you think you've learned any lessons here that could help our viewers?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing is, I would say never, no matter what circumstances, if you're not feeling comfortable meeting someone at your place,
Hmm.
just don't even open that door at all. Just say, I'll see you at this public location, which is what we had planned to do anyway.
Yeah.
So stick to the plan, meet in the public place,
Hmm.
and don't stray from that.
For state safety, for sure.
That's right, absolutely.
And I also, in listening to your story, I was thinking of another good lesson here, and that is listen to your instinct. Like
Absolutely.
you knew something was off without knowing why it felt like that. That's your gut. You got to
Yeah.
listen to that. I mean, that's important. I've used my gut many times through my life, and as far as I know, it has never wronged me.
Right.
If you get that, like, I should get out of here feeling, or something's not right, you got to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the thing, I think. I was at least smart enough to know that, you know, I wasn't really ever in danger. Again, he was a super nice guy. He had a
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
That past was not going to align with my personal values,
Yeah.
but he was a nice guy. But I was so thankful that I had the thought and kind of planned ahead to call my friend and
Yeah.
say, like, stand by just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. That's smart. Well, thanks for sharing your story. That's a pretty amazing story. Um, so again, check out Reed's blog, and that is pestoandpotatoes.com, and his Instagram at pesto and potatoes, plural. I was noticing because I wrote it down. I was like, oh, potatoes.
Multiple potatoes, as many potatoes as possible.
Yes, so I will post that in the description. And then here's my little favorite part here. Not really. I kind of love how cheesy my visual aids are though. So there will be a new episode every Thursday, 4 o'clock Pacific time. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with all your friends, and remember, you are loved. All right, thanks for joining us today. And this is Love Stories, Cheri Smith, Blue Heart Music, and we will catch you next time.